"You're the 30th I've hired. Don't get fired," James Harrington muttered, exhaustion lacing his voice as he surveyed the chaos of his New York mansion. His wife Victoria had vanished, leaving him with two wild twin boys, Ethan and Noah, whose pranks, spilling paint, rigging sprinklers, had driven off 29 nannies in a month. Yet passing the kitchen, James froze. There, under soft light, stood Layla Johnson, a striking African-American woman, her sleek hair tied in a neat bun, crisp white maid's uniform glowing. Beside her, the pale-skinned twins in red shirts scrubbed dishes, giggling. How had she tamed them? What secret did she hide? Would Victoria's shadow unravel it all? One thing was certain. Layla was no ordinary nanny. "You're the 30th I've hired. Don't get fired," James Harrington muttered, his voice heavy with exhaustion, as he stood in the grand foyer of his New York mansion. The words barely masked the despair clawing at his chest. Once a fortress of wealth and prestige, this sprawling estate in the suburbs now echoed with chaos, a hollow shell since Victoria, his wife, had stormed out 3 months ago. Her parting words, "I can't mother those little monsters," still burned in his mind. James, a billionaire whose tech empire commanded boardrooms, felt powerless against his 8-year-old twin sons, Ethan and Noah. Their relentless pranks, paint splattered on Persian rugs, sprinklers rigged to drench guests, had driven off 29 nannies in a single month. Each resignation chipped away at his hope, leaving him drowning in guilt and solitude. He loosened his tie, the weight of another grueling day at Harrington Technologies pressing on his shoulders. The chandelier above cast fractured light across the marble floor, mirroring the cracks in his life. He was a man who could negotiate billion-dollar deals, but couldn't stop his sons from turning his home into a battlefield. As he trudged toward his study, the clink of porcelain stopped him dead. The sound came from the kitchen, a room he rarely entered, a domain left to staff and chaos. Curiosity, tinged with dread, pulled him toward the noise. There, under the soft glow of pendant lights, James froze. His heart stuttered. Ethan and Noah, pale-skinned and clad in matching red shirts, stood on stools at the sink, scrubbing dishes. Dishes! The boys who'd once filled a nanny's purse with chocolate syrup were giggling, soap suds clinging to their small hands. Beside them stood a woman, her presence like a quiet revolution in the opulent room. Layla Johnson, the 30th nanny, was striking, her African-American skin radiant, her sleek black hair pulled into a neat bun that gleamed under the light, her crisp white maid's uniform pristine, exuding a grace that felt both foreign and grounding in this house of excess. She leaned over the sink, guiding Noah's hands with a gentle touch, her voice a melodic hum as she praised their efforts. James's breath caught, a mix of disbelief and something softer. Hope, perhaps? He leaned against the doorway, unnoticed, watching Layla's calm command. Her eyes, warm and knowing, flickered with amusement as Ethan flicked suds at Noah, who squealed in delight. This wasn't the resigned tolerance of past nannies. This was connection, raw and real. James's chest tightened. How had she done this? How had she, in mere hours, tamed the untamable? "Careful, Ethan. You'll drown us all," Layla teased, her voice carrying a warmth that made James's throat ache. She didn't scold, didn't sigh in frustration. Instead, she handed Noah a plate, her fingers brushing his with a tenderness James hadn't seen since his own mother's days. The boys, usually hurricanes of defiance, obeyed her with an ease that felt like a betrayal of their own chaos. James's mind churned. Was this a fluke? A clever act to secure the job? He'd seen nannies try charm before, only to crumble under the twins' relentless mischief. Yet as he watched, doubt warred with a flicker of longing. He wanted to believe in Layla, in the possibility of order restored. But trust was a luxury he'd lost, eroded by Victoria's abandonment and the parade of failed caregivers. His sons deserved more than a revolving door of strangers. So did he. The thought stung, sharp and unbidden. He straightened, clearing his throat, and the boy's head snapped up. "Dad!" Noah beamed, waving a soapy hand. "Layla's teaching us how to make dishes sparkle." Ethan nodded, his grin wide. She says we're naturals. James forced a smile, his gaze shifting to Layla. She turned, her eyes meeting his, steady and unflinching. Mr. Harrington, she said, wiping her hands on a towel, her voice calm but carrying a quiet strength. I hope you don't mind. The boys wanted to help, and I thought it'd be a good start. A start? His tone was sharper than intended, skepticism bleeding through. You're the 30th I've hired, Miss Johnson. Most didn't last a day. The words felt cruel, but he couldn't stop them. He needed her to know the stakes, to feel the weight of his doubt. Layla's lips curved, not in defiance but in understanding. I'm not most, Mr. Harrington. I'm here to help. Not just the boys, but you. Her words hit like a lifeline tossed into a storm. James's jaw tightened, emotions swirling. Hope, fear, exhaustion. He wanted to believe her, but belief was a risk he hadn't taken in months. Before he could respond, a sharp buzz from his phone broke the moment. A message from Victoria's lawyer. We need to discuss custody. She's reconsidering her position. His stomach twisted. Victoria, who'd called their sons monsters, wanted back in. The audacity ignited a spark of anger, but beneath it lay fear. What did she want now? James glanced at Layla, her silhouette framed by the kitchen's glow, the twins still chattering happily. For the first time in months, the house felt alive, not just loud, but could it last? Could Layla, with her serene confidence and mysterious ease, be the answer? Or was she another fleeting hope, destined to vanish like the rest? As he turned away, the clink of dishes resumed, a fragile promise in a home that had forgotten how to hope. The clink of dishes lingered in James Harrington's ears as he retreated to his study. The image of Layla Johnson and his sons, Ethan and Noah, burned into his mind. Their laughter, so foreign in this cavernous New York mansion, felt like a fragile melody threatening to break. Layla, with her sleek black hair tied in a neat bun, her crisp white maid's uniform glowing under the kitchen lights, had done the impossible. She'd made his boys smile. But James's heart, battered by months of chaos and Victoria's betrayal, refused to soften. Trust was a gamble he couldn't afford, not after 29 nannies had fled. Yet as he sank into his leather chair, the buzz of Victoria's lawyer's message, custody discussions, gnawed at him. What game was she playing now? Morning sunlight spilled through the mansion's tall windows, casting golden streaks across the marble floors. James sipped his coffee, his eyes heavy from a sleepless night. He'd replayed Layla's words. I'm here to help, not just the boys, but you, and felt a pang of something unfamiliar. Vulnerability. He pushed it down, focusing on the day's meetings at Harrington Technologies. But as he adjusted his tie, a commotion from the dining room shattered his focus. A high-pitched giggle, unmistakably Noah's, followed by Ethan's conspiratorial whisper. James braced himself. Another prank. Another test. He stepped into the dining room and stopped short. The antique mahogany table, a relic of his family's legacy, was smeared with chocolate syrup, dripping like a child's abstract painting. Ethan and Noah froze, their red shirts speckled with evidence, their eyes wide with feigned innocence. In the center stood Layla, her white uniform pristine despite the mess, her hair bun gleaming as she held a sticky spoon with a bemused smile. James's jaw tightened, anger flaring. What the hell is this? He snapped, his voice sharper than intended. The twins flinched, but Layla's gaze met his, unflinching. A breakfast experiment gone wild, she said, her voice steady, laced with a warmth that disarmed him. The boys thought chocolate syrup pancakes might be a hit. We're learning about creative boundaries. She winked at Noah, who stifled a giggle. James's anger faltered, replaced by confusion. Most nannies would have screamed, quit or both. Layla was turning chaos into a lesson. Clean it up, he said, softer now, his eyes flickering between the twins and Layla. And no more experiments without my approval. The boys nodded, but their usual defiance was absent. Instead, they grabbed rags, following Layla's gentle instructions to scrub the table. James watched, his chest tight with a mix of frustration and awe. Ethan, who'd once hidden a frog in a nanny's shoe, wiped diligently. Noah, the mastermind behind a glitter bomb incident, hummed as he worked. Layla moved between them, her presence a quiet anchor, her uniform a beacon of calm amidst the storm. As the boys cleaned, Layla approached James, her steps light but deliberate. "They're not bad kids, Mr. Harrington," she said softly, her dark eyes searching his. "They're just shouting for someone to hear them." Her words cut deeper than he expected, stirring a guilt he'd buried. He hadn't heard his sons, not really, not since Victoria left, calling them monsters. Had he failed them as much as she had? "I don't need parenting advice," he replied, his tone curt, shielding the ache in his chest. But Layla didn't flinch. "Maybe not," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "but they need someone to see past the syrup." She turned back to the boys, her bun catching the sunlight, and James felt a stir of something he couldn't name. Admiration, perhaps, or the ghost of hope. The day unfolded with an eerie calm. James left for work, but his mind stayed in the dining room, replaying Layla's ease with his sons. At the office, between boardroom debates and contract reviews, his thoughts drifted to her serene confidence, the way her presence seemed to quiet the mansion's chaos. By evening, he returned home braced for disaster, but found the dining room spotless. The twins sprawled on the living room rug, sketching with crayons under Layla's guidance. She sat cross-legged, her white uniform somehow still immaculate, guiding Noah's hand to draw a rocket. Ethan's paper showed a family, 2 boys, a man, and a woman with a neat bun. James's throat tightened. He hadn't seen his sons draw since Victoria left. "Nice work," he managed, his voice gruff. Ethan beamed. "Layla says I'm an artist," Noah chimed in, "and I'm building a real rocket someday." Layla smiled, her eyes meeting James's briefly, a silent acknowledgement of their progress. For a moment, he wanted to join them, to kneel on the rug and be part of their world. But the buzz of his phone broke the spell. Another message from Victoria's lawyer. "She wants a meeting. Tomorrow." His stomach churned. What did she want with the boys she'd abandoned? As Layla gathered the crayons, James caught a glimpse of her expression. Steady, but with a flicker of something deeper, a shadow of pain. "Thank you, Miss Johnson," he said quietly. "For today." She nodded, her bun glinting under the chandelier. "Just doing my job, Mr. Harrington. But it's more than a job to them." Her words lingered, a challenge and a promise, as James retreated to his study, the weight of Victoria's threat and Layla's mystery pressing against his heart. Could this woman, this stranger, be the key to saving his family? Or was she another fleeting spark in a house destined to burn? The echo of Layla's words, "It's more than a job to them," followed James Harrington into the dawn, a quiet challenge that stirred his restless heart. The New York mansion, once a monument to his success, felt like a maze of doubts as he prepared for another day at Harrington Technologies. The memory of Ethan and Noah sketching happily under Layla's guidance clashed with the sting of Victoria's lawyer's message. A meeting to discuss custody. His chest tightened with dread. What could Victoria, who'd fled from motherhood, want now? As he sipped his coffee, the house was unnervingly silent. No crashes, no giggles. For a moment, he dared to hope Layla's magic was holding. Then a scream shattered the calm. It came from outside, sharp and panicked. James bolted to the window, heart pounding. In the sprawling backyard, Mrs. Clara, the elderly white housekeeper, stood clutching her apron, staring upward. On the mansion's steeply sloped roof, Ethan and Noah perched precariously, their red shirts stark against the gray shingles. They waved sticks like swords, shouting about a sky fortress. James's blood ran cold. The roof was 3 stories high. A fall could be deadly. He sprinted outside, fear choking his voice. "Ethan! Noah! Get down now!" Layla appeared, her crisp white maid's uniform a beacon in the morning light, her sleek black hair tied in a neat bun that caught the sun's rays. She moved with a calm that seemed impossible, assessing the scene. "Stay back, Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "I've got this." Before he could protest, she grabbed a ladder from the garden shed, her movements swift yet graceful, and began to climb. James watched, torn between terror and awe, as she ascended toward his sons. Boys, Layla called, her tone firm but warm. You've built a fine fortress, but it's time to come down. Ethan, ever the bold one, laughed. We're knights. No one can stop us. Noah, quieter, hesitated, his eyes flickering with uncertainty. Layla reached the roof's edge, her uniform stark against the shingles, and extended a hand. Knights need to rest, don't they? Let's plan the next battle on solid ground. Her words, laced with understanding, pierced James's heart. She wasn't scolding, she was reaching them. Noah took her hand, but Ethan slipped, his foot skidding on a loose shingle. James's breath stopped as Layla lunged, catching Ethan's arm, her own body teetering. A gash opened on her hand, blood staining her sleeve, but she held firm, pulling him to safety. James's legs nearly gave out as she guided both boys down the ladder, her bun slightly askew but her composure unshaken. On the ground, Ethan and Noah threw their arms around her, sobbing. We're sorry, Layla, Noah cried. We just wanted Dad to see us. James rushed forward, his voice breaking. What were you thinking? You could have died. His anger masked a deeper fear, a guilt that he'd been too absent, too buried in work and Victoria's shadow. The twins clung to Layla, their red shirts damp with tears. She knelt, blood dripping from her hand, and spoke softly. I used to climb trees to feel brave when I was scared, but you don't need a roof to be seen. Your dad's right here. Her words hit James like a tidal wave, exposing his failure to connect with his sons. I'm keeping them safe, Layla said, meeting his gaze, her eyes fierce with conviction. But they need you, not just me. James's throat tightened. He wanted to lash out, to blame her for letting them climb, but the truth in her words silenced him. She'd risked herself for his boys, something no nanny had done. As Clara bandaged Layla's hand, muttering apologies for not watching closely, James saw a shift in the housekeeper's stern face. Respect, perhaps, for the woman she doubted. Inside, as Layla settled the twins with hot cocoa, James's phone buzzed again. Another message from Victoria's lawyer. She'll be at the house tomorrow. Prepare for a discussion. His stomach twisted. Victoria, who'd called their sons monsters, was circling back, and he didn't know why. He watched Layla, her white uniform now flecked with blood, guide Ethan and Noah through a story about a brave knight who learned to trust. Her voice, as steady and warm, soothed them, but James felt a storm brewing within. Guilt gnawed at him. He'd failed to see his son's cries for attention, and Layla, this enigmatic woman, seemed to understand them better than he did. Clara approached, her voice low. That Layla, she's not like the others. Reminds me of a girl I knew years ago, tied to your family somehow. Her words sparked a flicker of unease in James. Who was Layla, really? As she tucked a stray hair into her bun, her eyes met his, carrying a shadow of pain that mirrored his own. He wanted to ask, to demand answers, but the boys' laughter stopped him. For now they were safe thanks to her. But with Victoria's threat looming, James felt the ground shifting beneath him, a fragile hope battling an oncoming storm. The memory of Ethan and Noah clinging to Layla after their rooftop escapade haunted James Harrington as he moved through the quiet mansion. The image of Layla, her white maid's uniform flecked with blood, her sleek black hair, bun slightly askew yet radiant, stirred a storm in his chest, gratitude warring with unease. Mrs. Clara's words, hinting at Layla's tie to his family, echoed like a warning. Victoria's looming visit, announced by her lawyer's curt message, tightened the knot of dread in his gut. James stood at his study window, the New York skyline a distant blur, his heart heavy with questions. Who was Layla, really? And why did her presence feel like both salvation and a reckoning? Morning brought a fragile calm. James found Ethan and Noah in the living room, sprawled on the rug with sketch pads, their red shirts bright against the muted opulence. Layla sat beside them, her crisp white uniform pristine again, her hair bun gleaming under the chandelier's light. She guided Ethan's pencil, her voice soft as she praised his drawing, a rocket soaring through stars. Noah, engrossed in a Lego tower, looked up with a shy smile. James's throat tightened. These were his boys, not the pranksters who'd terrorized nannies, but children craving connection. Layla had seen that when he hadn't. He lingered in the doorway, unseen, his heart aching with guilt. He'd been so consumed by work and Victoria's betrayal that he'd missed their silent cries. Layla's words from the roof, "They need you, not just me," cut deeper now, exposing his failures as a father. Yet her quiet strength, the way she turned chaos into creativity, sparked a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in months. But Clara's cryptic remark gnawed at him. A girl tied to his family? He needed answers. "Layla," he called, his voice gruffer than intended. She looked up, her dark eyes steady, a shadow of something, pain perhaps, flickering within. "Can we talk?" The twins glanced between them, sensing tension. Layla nodded, smoothing her uniform. "Boys, keep working on those she said, her tone warm. "I'll be right back." Ethan hesitated, clutching his pencil. "You're not leaving, are you?" Noah's voice trembled. Layla knelt, her bun catching the light. "Not a chance, Noah. I'm right here." Her promise, simple yet fierce, made James's chest tighten. In the study, James faced her, his emotions a tangle of trust and suspicion. "Clara mentioned a girl from Harlem, someone tied to my family. Is that you?" Layla's composure faltered, her fingers brushing the edge of her uniform. "Mr. Harrington," she began, her voice low. "I grew up in Harlem, yes, but I'm here for your boys, not the past." Her evasion fueled his unease. "Don't dodge the question," he pressed. "What's your connection to us?" She took a breath, her eyes meeting his with a mix of defiance and sorrow. "When I was a kid, my family lost everything, our home, our stability, because of a deal gone wrong with your father's company. I was 10. I knew you, James. Just a boy then, before it all fell apart." The revelation hit like a blow. James remembered a girl, bright and fearless, who'd played with him in the park before vanishing. "Layla?" he whispered, disbelief choking him. She nodded, her bun glinting as she turned away. "I came back to help kids like I was, not to dig up old wounds." James's mind reeled. Guilt surged. He'd been a child, unaware of his family's actions, yet complicit in their wealth. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice raw. "I didn't want pity," Layla said, her tone firm but laced with pain. "I wanted to make a difference for Ethan and Noah. They're hurting like I did. That's enough for me." Her selflessness shamed him, yet her secrecy stung. Could he trust her fully, knowing she'd hidden this? Before he could respond, Clara burst in, her face pale. "Sir, a package from Mrs. Harrington's lawyer." James tore it open, his heart sinking. Inside were photos, grainy images of a young Layla outside his father's office, paired with a letter accusing her of seeking revenge against the Harringtons. Victoria's note was venomous. "She's using your sons to destroy you. I'll prove it tomorrow." Rage flared in James, but doubt crept in. Was Layla's kindness a mask? He looked at her, her uniform a stark contrast to the accusations, her eyes pleading for trust. "Layla, tell me this isn't true," he said, his voice breaking. She stepped closer, her bun steady despite the storm. "I'm here for your boys, James, not revenge. Believe that, or let her win." Her words, raw and honest, pierced his doubt. He wanted to believe her, needed to, for his son's sake. Outside, Ethan and Noah's laughter drifted in, a fragile reminder of the family he was fighting for. As Layla returned to the boys, James clutched the letter, Victoria's threat a dark cloud. Layla's past tied her to his family's sins, yet her actions spoke of redemption. Could he trust her to save his sons, or was she a danger he couldn't see? The answers lay in the hours ahead, but for now the sound of his boys' laughter, sparked by a woman who'd known his world's cruelty, held him captive. Layla's plea, "Believe that or let her win," echoed in James Harrington's mind as he stood in his darkened study. The crumpled letter from Victoria's lawyer a weight in his hand. The accusation that Layla, with her radiant presence and quiet strength, was plotting revenge against his family gnawed at him. Her sleek black hair, tied in a neat bun, and her crisp white maid's uniform had seemed a beacon of hope in his chaotic New York mansion. Yet now they framed a mystery. His sons, Ethan and Noah, laughed somewhere beyond the walls, their joy a fragile thread in a home fraying under Victoria's shadow. Tomorrow she would arrive, her intentions unclear but venomous. James's heart churned with doubt, but Layla's actions, saving his boys from the roof, turning their chaos into creativity, begged him to trust her. As dust settled, James wandered to the backyard, drawn by the flicker of light and the boys' excited chatter. There, in the sprawling garden, Layla had transformed a corner into a makeshift campsite. A small tent glowed with lantern light, surrounded by paper stars strung between trees. Ethan and Noah, in their red shirts, darted around, their pale faces alight with wonder. Layla, her white uniform catching the twilight, knelt to help Noah tape a star to a branch. Her bun gleamed, a quiet elegance against the wild beauty of the scene. "Look, Dad," Ethan called, waving a glowing lantern. "We're building a fortress of light." James's chest tightened, a mix of awe and guilt. He'd been too buried in fear to see his son's need for magic. Layla glanced up, her dark eyes warm yet guarded. "Join us, Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice a soft invitation. "The boys need their commander." Hesitant, James stepped forward, the weight of Victoria's accusations heavy. But as Noah handed him a lantern, its warmth seeping into his hands, he felt a crack in his defenses. "What's this all about?" he asked, crouching beside Ethan, who was sketching stars on a clipboard. Layla smiled, her bun catching the lantern's glow. "They're scared of losing you, like they lost their mom. This is their safe place, a fortress where no one leaves." Her words pierced him, unearthing the guilt he'd buried since Victoria's departure. He'd been a ghost in his sons' lives, lost in boardrooms and bitterness. Layla saw what he'd missed. Their pranks, their rooftop adventure, were cries for connection. As he helped Ethan hang a star, their fingers brushing, James felt a pang of longing to be the father they needed. Noah tugged his sleeve, shyly showing a Lego rocket lit by a tiny bulb. "Layla says we can light up the dark," he whispered. James's throat burned. When had he last listened to his sons? They sat inside the tent, the boys nestled against Layla, her uniform a stark contrast to the colorful chaos of their creations. She told a story of a knight who built a castle of light to protect his family, her voice weaving a spell that held even James captive. Ethan's eyes shone, Noah's fears softened, and James felt a warmth he hadn't known in months. But the photos from Victoria's lawyer flashed in his mind. Layla outside his father's office, a child wronged by his family's wealth. Could her kindness be a mask? He pushed the thought away, but it lingered, a shadow in the lantern's glow. Clara appeared, her face softer than usual, carrying a tray of marshmallows. "You're good for them, Layla," she said, her tone a begrudging olive branch. James caught her glance, heavy with meaning. "Clara," he said quietly, stepping aside, "what do you know about Layla's past?" The housekeeper hesitated, then whispered, "Her family's loss wasn't just business. There was a fire, tied to your father's company. She was a child, James, but she remembers you." The revelation hit like a stone, deepening his guilt. Layla had suffered because of his family, yet here she was, saving his. Returning to the tent, James watched Layla roast a marshmallow, her bun glinting as she laughed with the boys. "You're not like the others," he said, his voice low, raw with emotion. "Why stay after what my family did?" Her eyes met his, a flicker of pain surfacing. "Because hurt kids need someone who's been hurt too," she said. "I'm here to give them what I didn't have." Her honesty disarmed him, but Victoria's threat loomed. A new message buzzed on his phone. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be ready." His heart sank. Victoria was coming, armed with lies to tear them apart. As the boys fell asleep in the tent, their red shirts crumpled, James lingered, watching Layla pack the lanterns. Her uniform, still pristine, seemed a shield against the chaos. He wanted to trust her, to believe in the light she brought. But with Victoria's arrival hours away, doubt and hope battled within him, a fragile fortress teetering on the edge of collapse. The glow of the lantern-lit garden camp lingered in James Harrington's heart, a fragile beacon against the storm brewing within. Layla's words, "I'm here to give them what I didn't have," had cracked his defenses, but Victoria's imminent arrival, armed with lies about Layla's past, cast a shadow over the New York mansion. James stood at his bedroom window, the city lights blurring as guilt and hope battled. Layla, with her sleek black hair in a neat bun and crisp white maid's uniform, had brought light to his sons, Ethan and Noah. Yet the photos accusing her of revenge, tied to a fire from his family's past, fueled his doubt. Could he trust her fully, with Victoria's claws sharpening for a fight? Morning arrived, heavy with tension. James found Ethan and Noah in the dining room, their red shirts bright as they hunched over a model rocket. Layla guiding their hands. Her bun gleamed under the chandelier, her uniform a stark contrast to the chaos Victoria's visit promised. The boys' laughter, once a rare sound, felt like a lifeline James couldn't lose. But as the clock struck 10, the doorbell's chime cut through the air like a blade. Victoria had arrived. She swept into the foyer, her designer coat a shield of privilege, her icy blue eyes scanning the room with disdain. "James," she said, her voice dripping with calculated charm, "we need to talk about our sons." The word "our" stung, a lie from the woman who'd called Ethan and Noah monsters before abandoning them. James's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Victoria's gaze locked on Layla, who stood protectively near the boys. "You," she sneered. "The maid playing nanny. How quaint." Layla's composure held, her white uniform radiant, her bun steady. "I'm here for the boys, Mrs. Harrington," she said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "They deserve love, not games." Victoria laughed, sharp and cruel, pulling a folder from her bag. "Love? You're a fraud, Layla. These prove you're after revenge." She tossed photos onto the table. Layla as a child outside James's father's office, paired with fabricated documents claiming she'd sued the Harringtons for the fire that ruined her family. James's heart lurched, doubt flaring despite Layla's kindness. Ethan and Noah froze, their small faces paling. "Layla's not a fraud," Ethan shouted, his voice trembling. Noah clutched her hand, eyes wide with fear. "She's our friend." The twins' defense pierced James's chest, their trust in Layla a mirror to his own wavering faith. He stepped forward, anger simmering. "Victoria, stop this. You left them. You don't get to waltz back in." Victoria's smile was venomous. "I'm their mother, James, and I've learned you're signing a big deal. I want my family back, and her gone." She jabbed a finger at Layla, then dropped her bombshell. "I've got a contact at your competitor, ready to sabotage your contract unless I get custody. Choose wisely." The threat hit like a punch, James's world tilting. Victoria wasn't just after the boys. She was attacking his empire to control him. Layla's eyes met his, a silent plea for trust. Her bun caught the light, her uniform a symbol of her steadfast presence. "Don't let her scare you," she said softly. "The boys need truth, not threats." Her courage, rooted in her own pain, ignited something in James. He wanted to believe her, but Victoria's folder loomed, a tangible accusation. Then Clara stormed in, her elderly face fierce. "Enough," she snapped, holding up her phone. "I recorded you, Victoria, plotting with that competitor last month. You never wanted those boys. You wanted leverage." The room froze. Clara played the audio, Victoria's voice clear. "If James doesn't comply, we tank his deal." Victoria's composure cracked, her eyes darting to the door. "You have no proof," she hissed, but her voice wavered. James's rage boiled over. "Get out," he said, his voice low, lethal. "You abandoned our sons and now you threaten my family? We're done." Victoria flinched, clutching her bag, but Layla stepped forward, her bun glinting with resolve. "You can't buy love, Mrs. Harrington," she said, her tone cutting. "Ethan and Noah deserve better." The boys ran to her, wrapping their arms around her, their red shirts a vivid contrast to her white uniform. Victoria's face twisted, and she stormed out, leaving a chilling promise. "This isn't over." James sank into a chair, his heart pounding with relief and fear. Layla knelt beside the boys, soothing their tears, her uniform stained with their smudged fingerprints. "You're safe," she whispered, her voice a balm. James watched, guilt flooding him for doubting her. "Layla," he said, his voice raw, "I'm sorry, I should have trusted you." She smiled, a flicker of pain in her eyes. Trust takes time, Mr. Harrington. Start with them. She nodded at the boys who clung to her, their faith unwavering. As Layla led Ethan and Noah back to their rocket, James felt a shift. Victoria's threat lingered, but Layla's strength was his anchor. The fight wasn't over, but for now his sons had a protector, and he had a choice to make: trust or lose everything. The echo of Victoria's parting threat, "This isn't over," hung like a fading storm cloud as James Harrington watched the foyer door close behind her. The New York mansion, once a battlefield of pranks and pain, felt lighter, as if Layla Johnson's quiet courage had swept away the shadows. Her words, "Trust takes time. Start with them," burned in his chest, a call to rebuild what he'd let crumble. Ethan and Noah's fierce defense of Layla, their small arms around her crisp white maid's uniform, had cracked his heart open. Her sleek black hair, tied in a neat bun, gleamed like a beacon of hope. But James knew the battle wasn't won. Victoria's venom lingered, and trust was still a fragile thread. Yet as he looked at his sons, he felt a spark of something new: resolve. Days later, the mansion's garden buzzed with life. James had planned a party, not of his usual elite gatherings, but a warm, chaotic affair for the neighborhood, a tribute to Layla's miracle. Lanterns swayed in the evening breeze, casting golden light across tables laden with homemade treats. Ethan and Noah darted through the crowd, their red shirts vibrant, their laughter no longer edged with defiance but pure joy. Layla moved among the guests, her white uniform pristine, her bun catching the soft glow as she helped kids string paper stars. James watched from the patio, his heart swelling. This wasn't the cold opulence of his past. It was a home, reborn. He'd spent the week after Victoria's exit in a whirlwind, lawyers armed with Clara's recorded evidence, ensuring Victoria's sabotage plot and custody demands were buried. The victory was hollow without his son's smiles, and Layla had given him those. Her selfless act, facing Victoria's lies, saving his boys from their own chaos, had undone him. Guilt still gnawed. His family's company had destroyed hers years ago, yet she'd chosen to heal his sons rather than hate him. He wanted to honor that, to make her more than the maid Victoria had mocked. "Mr. Harrington," Clara said, appearing beside him, her stern face softened. "Those boys are different now. She's different." The housekeeper, once Layla's skeptic, now beamed with pride. "You're keeping her, I hope." James nodded, his throat tight. "She's family, Clara." The words felt right, a truth he hadn't dared admit until now. As the party hummed, Ethan and Noah tugged Layla to a makeshift stage of wooden crates, their eyes sparkling with mischief and something deeper: love. "We made something for you," Ethan announced, his voice loud over the crowd's chatter. Noah, clutching a small box, stepped forward. "It's from us, and Dad too." James's heart stuttered. He hadn't known about this. Layla, her bun glinting under the lanterns, knelt, her uniform brushing the grass. "What's this, Knights?" she teased, her voice warm but trembling. Noah opened the box, revealing a paper lantern, hand-painted with stars and a rocket and a folded drawing. Ethan unfolded it, a sketch of 4 figures: 2 boys in red, a man in a suit, and a woman with a neat bun, labeled "Our Real Family." Beneath in Noah's careful scrawl were the words, "Layla, our mom." The crowd hushed, and James's eyes burned. Layla's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling as she pulled the boys close. "You too," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're my light." The twins clung to her, their red shirts crumpled against her white uniform, and the crowd erupted in applause, neighbors wiping their eyes. James stepped forward, his voice unsteady. "Layla," he said, loud enough for all to hear, "you didn't just save my boys. You saved me." His chest ached with gratitude, with the weight of his past failures. "You took a broken house and made it a home. We're not letting you go." Her eyes met his, shimmering with tears, and for a moment, the world was just them. Her bun catching the starlight, her uniform a symbol of her unwavering heart. The crowd cheered, but Ethan's small voice cut through. "Are you our mom now, Layla?" Noah added, For real? She laughed through her tears, hugging them tighter. For real, as long as you'll have me. As the party continued, James joined the boys and Layla, helping them light the painted lantern. It soared above the garden, a glowing star against the night. Clara, watching from the sidelines, nodded approvingly, her faith in Layla complete. James felt the weight of Victoria's betrayal lift, replaced by a certainty he hadn't known in years. Layla wasn't just a nanny, she was the heart of their family, her pain and strength weaving them together. The boys' laughter, once a cry for attention, now rang with love. James took Layla's hand, her fingers warm in his, and whispered, "Thank you." Her smile, radiant against her white uniform, was his answer, a promise of a future built on trust. As the lantern's glow faded into the New York night, James, Layla, Ethan, and Noah stood together, a family forged not by blood, but by love's unyielding strength. Their journey from chaos to connection, from doubt to trust, proved that even the darkest homes can find light. What did this story stir in you? Did Layla's courage touch your heart, or did the twins' transformation make you smile? Perhaps James's redemption sparked hope. Share your thoughts. Your reflections breathe life into their tale. Thank you for walking this path with us, for feeling their joys and fears. Your presence made their story shine brighter. Come back soon for more tales of hearts mended and families reborn. Until then, keep seeking the light in your own story.